What is neuroeconomics? Neuroeconomics is a relatively new field that incorporates methodologies from neuroscience, traditional economics, and psychology. It emphasizes the importance of emotions in decision-making as opposed to classical economics. Theories such as revealed preferences suggest that unobserved preferences are equal to observed choices. However, findings from neuroeconomics point out that preferences are not necessarily represented through choice, such as in the case of workaholism or dependency on drugs. People do not really want to overwork or abuse drugs, but they still choose to do so due to their neurobiological states. The principal framework for understanding social and economic behavior so far, rational choice theory, assumes that individuals always make logical and rational decisions through carefully weighing costs and benefits. However, behavioral economics and neuroscience point out the crucial roles that automatic and emotional processing plays in human decision-making. Decisions depend on many variables, including individuals' genes, their current context, and the unique structures of their brains. Therefore, there have emerged a few exceptions to conventional rational choice theory, such as in the case of the framing effect, where individuals make different decisions given identical options only framed differently, or the fact that preferences can change due to non-intrinsic attributes of goods, or even the fact that people would turn down what is considered to them an unfair offer, while rationally it would be better than no gains at all. Neuroeconomics presents a number of evidences that suggest that preferences are state contingent, which would go against the basic assumptions of conventional rational choice theory. Can neuroeconomics then help us better understand decision-making? How might their discoveries and views of human behavior inform economic analysis? For this purpose, neuroscientists use a variety of tools. One of the most popular methods in neuroscience is brain imaging, which include electroencephalograms, positron emission topography, and functional magnetic resonance imaging. Brain imaging shows the general area where the brain activity is taking place. Another method is single neuron measurement. Tiny electrodes are inserted into your brain, each measuring a single neuron's firing. A limitation of the single neuron measurement is that because insertion of the wires damages neurons, it is largely restricted to animals. Electrical brain stimulation is another method that is largely restricted to animals. In 1954, two psychologists discovered that rats would learn and execute novel behaviors if rewarded by brief pulses of electrical brain stimulation. Psychopathology and brain damage in humans. According to Antonio Damasio, chronic mental illnesses such as schizophrenia, developmental disorders such as autism, degenerative diseases of the nervous system, and accidents and strokes that damage localized brain regions help us understand how the brain works. Psychophysical measurement. An old and simple technique is measurement of psychophysical indicators like heart rate, blood pressure, galvanic skin response, for example sweating in the palms, and pupil dilation. Pupils dilate in response to arousal, including monetary reward. Diffusion tensor imaging is another technique which images water flow in the brain to reveal trajectories which project from one neural region to others. Human behavior requires a fluid interaction between controlled and automatic processes. Controlled processes are often associated with a subjective feeling of effort. They use step-by-step logic or computations and tend to be invoked deliberately by the agent when he or she encounters a challenge or surprise. People can typically provide a good introspective account of controlled processes. Automatic processes are the opposite of controlled processes. They operate in parallel, are relatively effortless, and are reflexive. These processes are not accessible to consciousness. Parallelism facilitates rapid response. The second distinction is made between cognitive and affective processes. Cognitive processes are those that answer true-false questions. Cognition by itself cannot produce action. To influence behavior, the cognitive system must operate via the affective system. Behavior then emerges from a continuous interplay of collaboration, competition, and sense-making between affect and cognition. For most researchers, the central feature of affect is not the feeling states associated with it, but its role in human motivation. Affect embodies not only emotions such as anger, fear, and jealousy, but also drives states such as hunger, thirst, desire, and motivation such as physical pain, discomfort, and drug cravings. In order to understand how the affective system operates, we need to remember that humans did not evolve to be happy, but to survive and reproduce. An important process by which the body attempts to achieve these goals is called homeostasis, which involves detectors and mechanisms that try to restore equilibrium when a system departs from a set point. Most of these mechanisms do not involve deliberate action. A neuroscience perspective sees pleasure as a homeostatic cue rather than as the end goal of human behavior, which establishes a primacy of affective behavior. This primacy of affect and the fact that we lack introspective access to such behavior has many important implications for economics. For instance, because people lack introspective access to these processes that produce discriminatory biases, they are unable to correct for them even when they are motivated to make impartial judgments and decisions. Indeed, they are very likely to deny that they are biased. Neuroscience suggests automaticity contributes to discrimination because neural networks rapidly spread activation through associated concepts and stereotypes. Affect contributes to discrimination because automatic affective reactions have such a powerful effect on cognitive judgment. Other specific neuroeconomic findings show evidence that risk-taking, time discounting, and altruism are very weakly correlated or uncorrelated across situations. Intertemporal choice is driven by two systems, one more cognitive and one more deliberative. Neuroeconomics found that greater relative activity in the affective system was associated with choosing earlier rewards more often, while cognitive regions were engaged uniformly by intertemporal choices. The relative activity of the two systems predict choices. Time discounting stems from competition between the affective and cognitive systems. Thus, if the affective system prevailed, then people will tend to be more impulsive. On the other hand, people may have self-control problems of the opposite type. Decision making under risk and uncertainty. On the one hand, as posited by traditional economic theories, people do attempt to evaluate the objective level of risk that different hazards could pose. On the other hand, people also react to risk at an emotional level, and these emotional reactions can powerfully influence their behavior. Much risk-averse behavior is driven by immediate fear responses to risk, and fear, in turn, seems to be largely traceable to the amygdala, which is similar to a pain response to losses. People are twice as much sensitive to pain of losses than to the pleasure of gains. Incorporating the affective dimensions of risk could help us better understand stock market booms and busts, the ubiquity of gambling, and the vicissitudes of public responses to threats as diverse as terrorism and global warming. In social interactions, knowing how each person acts and how they think you act is critical in predicting the behavior of other people. Neuroscientists posit that there is a special mind-reading mechanism of the brain for inferring the other player's intentions, which underlie emotional judgments of fairness and obliged reciprocity in modern theories. Here, the act of cooperation releases oxytocin and gives a kind of glue effect to the other player. Conversely, anti-cooperative behavior would evoke a sense of disgust. This is linked to the insula activity in the affective region of the brain. The higher the insula activity within a given individual, the more likely that he or she will reject unfair offers in an ultimatum game, even though this behavior contradicts rational behavior. So, considering the findings and methodology of neuroscience, can neuroeconomics help us better understand decision making? Some critics bring attention to the fact that most data generated by neuroscience does not yet have a largely agreed upon way of interpretation. Therefore, a link between neuroscientific imaging and economic theories could create more confusion. In addition, neuroeconomics focuses more on an understanding of individual behavior, and so seems not to contribute to economic theory. Nevertheless, many economists remain optimistic about the potential of neuroeconomics. With a better understanding of how individuals behave, we can make better suited and more targeted policy and regulation. Potential areas in which neuroeconomics can contribute to are financial policies, social welfare programs, consumption and saving regulations, public health, regulation of the labor market, justice, climate change, education, and more. Thanks for watching.